Welcome to the next episode of the MBR Osprey sports car build. This is going to be quite a short intro. I'm not going to be doing any COVID clips this time. I'm getting quite excited about getting into the actual build of where I am at the moment. So yeah, with no further ado, let's crack on with the video. Before I get into the main video clips, I wanted just to show you some pictures because I started this in last September and did a lot of prototyping. You can see in these pictures there's a bits of wood, and I was just generally mocking it up to see if the actual ideas would work. On the welding bench here, welding the boss on, checking for clearance, making sure the wheels would fit on, and just generally evolving the design. Hence just the pictures and there's no videos. You can see here, this is where I put the cross piece in to actuate both of the levers at the same time. I was also working out the distance to make sure both pads were moving at the same time. So yeah, gradually evolved it. I started on the left hand side caliper first, and as you can see here, starting to get almost finished, in fact more or less finished in these pictures. So yeah, and the last few pictures here are just showing you the parts and the finishing processes that I went through. And as you can see, just 4 pictures here, and then one here coming up of just all the parts and the clamping I had to use to make sure that it was the brake disc was on the hub properly. Okay, so now we're going to get into the main videos. The braking system, I've now fitted proper racing calipers to the car, but the other thing I required was for legality reasons was a handbrake. I looked at what I could do on handbrakes. I could have bought something contemporary off the shelf, but nothing really fitted. It was incredibly expensive, one or the other, and it probably wouldn't have suited my application. I'm doing a mechanical handbrake rather than a hydraulic handbrake, and I had a lot of bits on the shelf, and I decided that I'll have a go at making them. So this is the preliminary, or my first attempt. It's all a bit bulky, a bit heavy, I know that. It's going to be lightened, trimmed down, modified, but I've got to start somewhere, and this is costing me very, very little to do. So this is not quite as, I've got a few plates and bits and pieces on, which you'll have a look in the pictures, which makes it look a bit nicer. And obviously I've got to get the activation system working, but I'm still in the process of making, I'll go around the other side of the car, I'm still in the process of making the other side caliper at the moment. There's quite a lot involved, as you can see. There's various bits here that I've had to machine, weld, make. There's 6 main aluminium bits to the caliper. There's the 2 inner blocks, and there's the spacers, and then there's the 2 outer blocks. And in between the blocks, I have got spacers this side. And if I go around slowly, you should be able to see. Whoops. The spacer on that side as well. That keeps it all nice and neat and together. Yeah, so a huge amount of time was spent on the milling machine. Here's just as it's come off the milling machine, me checking various bits and pieces. One of the major things I had to do was check that both the upper and either side were the same angles. So here you can see me checking the angles to make sure they were parallel either side of one another. So quite important, otherwise they'd be lopsided and the whole thing just wouldn't work properly. So I had to keep a good eye on that. So yeah, that's just me now going to crack on with the next part of the video. Right, the next part of the project is handbrake. Now on a race car normally, or especially the cars when we were racing in the International Sports Car Championship, we never had to have handbrakes fitted. The only reason I've got to do it is for legality reasons. Now I started looking into what I could put on the car, if there's anything off the shelf, and there wasn't really, because I still want to retain these Alcon racing calipers. That's going to be a major part of the car because the stopping power of them is absolutely superb, so I wanted to leave them as it was. So I'm going to have to mount some form of caliper in this area. So I'll come back to that in a second, because I'm going to actually have 2 calipers on the car, which is, you think, why 2 calipers? So we'll go to the front, and what we've done here, it's something we used to use on the race cars. If you look right down, hopefully Karen can get in there, there's that little solenoid unit down where my finger's pointing, and what that's called, it's called a line lock. Yeah, and the whole idea of that is once you've when you're racing, especially if you're doing a standing start, or only if you're doing a standing start, you would come up to the line, you get your car balanced on revs, and you would then press the line lock so the car couldn't creep, so you wouldn't be done for a full start. And as soon as the lights went green, you'd press the button and off you go. Now, I'm having this on the car for a bit of fun. Two things. Well, one, it's a bit of fun, and two, if you come to a hill and you want to stop quickly, you can just put your foot on the brake, press the button, let off the brake, and then when you're ready to go again, press the brake. So it's got a couple of options, and as you can see, I haven't gone through this yet. This is our 3D printed steering wheel. I'll do a bit more of a project on it, but my button for the brake is I'll just press that, and that, as long as my foot's on the brake, it will lock the front brakes on. But it's not good enough for an MOT, so or for an RVA test or whatever, so I can't just use that, unfortunately. On the back here, I've got my flappy paddles, and I've got an infrared unit, so I've got no horrible wires and cables coming off the steering wheel. It's just operated by infrared. And as you can see, it's our little Osprey wheel that Adam's designed, and Karen, everybody's had a go at making this look something a bit different. Okay, moving back now to what's actually in the cockpit. This is, I think I've said in a previous video, this is the handbrake off the Mini, and as you can see, that's how it's going to operate. I was going to have cables going right to the back, or links going to the back of the car, but I think now I'm going to run a cable from the actual handbrake, we'll show you in a minute, all the way up to here. So a little bit of modification to be done there, but nothing too strenuous. Right, so going back to the caliper again. I could have had a bespoke caliper made, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and this project's cost enough as it was, and I always like a challenge, and I thought, how could I do something myself? So I decided that I'd have a go at making my own handbrake caliper. So that's where we are at the moment, and I utilise the materials that I've got on the shelf. So I've managed to have quite a nice lot of block. I've had some brake pads. I've done quite a few bits and pieces. Now this is just not the prototype stage, but I want it to work. I don't want a handbrake to give us any problems, but it is a bit heavy and chunky. I know I can make it lighter. I know I can make it a bit better, but you've got to start somewhere. So this is my first start. So if you come down here now, if Karen zooms in, how it's going to operate. I haven't got this bolted on yet, but she comes over to the top. You'll see when I press this lever, the inside, the two pads come and operate on the brake. That's connected by this link bar there, and it's going to have a cable coming. I've just done this for filming purposes, but it's going to have a cable coming up here. I need to make a bracket, or an L-shaped bracket, to hold the cable. And you've also got to remember when I'm doing this that at the moment the car's in what they call droop, so the suspension's is down quite a long way, and this cable, as the wheel goes up and down, is going to have to move. So I'm going to have to allow for some flex here so that the cable can go up and down when the car's going up and down over bumps. I haven't finished any of this area yet, so on here I'm going to have some form of spring, and as you can see in this tray, I've got a whole load of springs, because once you put your handbrake on, that's fine, it's clamped it up, but as soon as you let go again, I don't want the pads to stick on the brake disc, so I'm going to need some form of spring. So I'm going to have to, haven't decided what type of spring yet, but this will be done in later videos of what type of spring to fit on the car. The other thing is all the bolts on here, all the bolts are just bits and pieces I've had lying around. I hate rust on a car, so all of the bolts that I'm using are either they come pre-plated, or I've got a few stainless ones on there. So yeah, I hate rusty bolts. And talking about bolts, a bit of information for you guys. There's various grades of bolts. You've got your standard bolt, which you can get for your local hardware store. If you want to move up to have a slightly stronger bolt, you got to what they call an AN bolt, stands for Army and Navy. No idea why, but if someone's got in the comments can tell me why it's called Army and Navy bolt, I don't know. And then we've got a NAS bolt, which is an aerospace stroke aeroplane bolt, very high strength, and you can always tell because they've got NAS written on them, hence they're called a NAS bolt. So yeah, okay, that's just a bit of info on bolts. Okay, I'm going to take you over now to the other side so I can show you where we are with the caliper. This is one that is off the car, and if you have a look in here, you can see how it all operates. With the lever in here, the brake pads come together. I've had to make a metal piece in, steel piece in there, steel piece the other side, and these pads, or the caliper pads, I've actually made from a set of old racing pads. I've just cut them down to size and drilled and tap in the back of them. It was quite an easy way. In fact, here's some more of the pads that I used. I just cut them to size and put them on there. Had to do a bit of welding on this top one so I can make it fit onto the caliper. And in here I've got it so these move, but there's not too much float up and down. And when we go back to the other calipers, I've still got some bits and pieces to finish off. And the link rod that you saw is here. I managed to buy these online. They were very cheap and quite nice, saved me a whole load of making. But what I have done here so that they can actually rotate and don't seize the caliper up is these bolts are tight, but they still spin. I could have used a pin with an R-clip through it, but I thought this was a lot nicer way of doing it. So all the bolts I've cut down to the correct length, so they're so they won't clamp that up too tight. And I've got in here, I've got an adjusting rod so I can move them so I can get the caliper in exactly the right position. In a minute I'm going to be going through, I've got another version of these which I think I showed you, well I did show you on a previous video, that actually sits on there. I'm going to be going through a bit of hydro dipping, so that could be quite interesting. We'll stop the video and go again for that in a minute. Okay, so what have I got to do next? So my next move, I'll go back onto the caliper over here. First little job I've got to do is when you come round onto this caliper, as you can see, this block over here still got a lot of movement on it. So I've got bobbins that I turn up, so I've got to take a bobbin off. I know that's what I've got to do there. Then once I'm done that, I'm really sort of getting quite excited about that point, because the calipers are actually more or less finished as far as the operation side goes. So then what I've got to do is start making, and I'll be showing in a next video, is the bracket to come off here to hold the cable. Now what I'm going to probably do with the cables is the cable's going to be, I've looked online and I was going to go for a push bike, but you can get motorbike cables or car handbrake cables, and I'm going to basically get a kit online and cut it to suit my requirements. Okay, so yeah, now we're going to go on to the hydro dipping. Right, I'm here at the hydro dipping department, and I've given these a coat of grey primer, put a lump of blue tack on the back so I can hold it when I dip them. This is the first double dip I've done. I normally just dip one thing at a time, but because I'm a bit OCD, I want to try and get the grain directions on both of them exactly the same, so I'll be dipping them both at the same time. Right, so I've got my bowl of water. I'm now going to go and get the film to put in. Alright, and here's my carbon fibre pattern, and in I go to the water very carefully. Unfortunately it's gone down a bit over there, there's not a lot I can do about that. I'm going to have to wait for a second. This all shrivels up, and you'll see it all starting to shrivel if you look in there now. Then as it absorbs the water, I've got to let it go through this process. Once it's gone through the shriveling process, I will apply this hydrographic film coating, put it on it, and away we go. Got a couple of wrinkles which I'm going to try and get out. As you can see, if I blow on them, they gradually go. We're almost done, just a bit more over there and we'll be ready to go. Almost done. Right. And here we go. Gradually go in. And there we have two hydro dip parts. Next thing I've got to do now is just wash them off. This just gets all the glue off. And once we've done this, got the glue off, I've just got to let it dry for a long period of time. It's probably going to take at least 8 hours for it to dry. And once it's dried, I can then give it a couple of coats of varnish. But as you can see, that's starting to look quite nice. Right, I'll put that on my tray now and leave them to dry. They're going to take at least 6 hours to dry, maybe more. We'll see how it goes. So the bobbin I've got to adjust is this one here. Now this is a dummy one. I've done it so it actually fits in rather nice and easily. So what I've got to do here is I'll just increase this diameter by a few thousandths of an inch, and I'm going to make it about 4mm longer, and then just keep checking it until I lose all the slop on the lever, so it's a nice sliding movement we get. Okay, so onto the lathe and make one of these. Okay, I've turned the bobbin up and just put it in, and as you can see at the moment, whoops, no, I'll do the other way. It's actually still a little bit too thick. I just loosen it off just a touch, and as you can see, it's loose there, but I just start to nip it up, and just in the last throes of doing this up tight, that's about there, it's just locking it up. So I don't need much off. A 0.1 of a millimetre, something like that. I can almost move it. So yeah, almost move it. So it just needs a tad more off. I'll put it back together again. Let's see how that goes. Okay, we have success. It now pivots in and out quite nicely. There's zero lateral movement, and that's done up really tight. So yeah, really happy with that. You'll notice that this bit here is still plain steel, and the bobbins, these bobbins that I've been doing, they're still plain steel. So what I've got for that is a process called blacking, and I'll show you that in a second. I'll show you one part on the car that's already been blacked, and that's up here, the push rod adjuster. So that stops it from going rusty, because if I don't put any form of plating on it, they'll go rusty. So I've got to take all four from each side caliper out and black them. Okay, so this is the blacking department, as I call it. It's a blacking solution. There it is. I buy it online. This is an old wallpaper trough. I've just got another little trough in there. I've got anything sort of bigger or longer, I use the wallpaper trough, but for now I've just poured a little bit of the solution into there. Wear gloves because it's quite corrosive, as you can see. It hasn't done my funnel much good, so you can see where I've been doing blacking, it's not really helped my cleaning tank either. So yeah, always wear gloves. So okay, what I've done is I've cleaned these bobbins from the outside of the caliper, so they're going in, and then I've got the other ones from the inside of the caliper going in. Now this only works for steel, and it definitely doesn't work for stainless steel. Only sort of carbon steels it works for, but you leave them in for a bit, and like magic, as you can see, if I take this out, you can see they've already started to go black. Normally I have to leave them in there for a couple of minutes, so I'll leave them in there and I'll pull them out when they're fully blacked. Okay, they've been in there for a couple of minutes, so the next thing to do is just take them out, let them drain for a second. I'll wash them off in the cleaning tank, just give them a light flick to get some of the excess off, and I shall do the same with the other one. It's gone in the water in the solution, so good job I've got gloves on. As you can see, nice and black. Different in the cleaning tank. Now the next trick is I've just got to wipe these off. And once I've wiped them off, I'm going to put them into spray them with an oil, and then I'll leave that to drain for a bit, and then go on to silicone. I'll take you over to the bench and do that in a minute. Next thing I always do once I'm to this point is I never leave this solution out for safety reasons, and also it evaporates away. So that's why the funnel's got all rusty. I put the fluid back into the container again. I'll take a picture of that so I can show you on the screen if anybody's interested in getting it, where to get it from. Okay, so I've given them a nice clean off now, and I'm going to give them a spray with this stuff. Just be fairly liberal with it, and then pop it over the other way, spray the other side. And I normally leave this for a good sort of 45 minutes to an hour to let the oil penetrate in, and once that's done, just remove any excess oil. Then I will spray them with silicone spray, and they're good to go. Okay, so you can see that these have all now come nice and blackened, and you can see the difference between a non-blackened and blackened one. Now this is the one that I use as my dummy for the mock-up. Okay, now I'm going to start putting all this little lot back together. That's what happens in there. Okay, so you can see those are looking quite nice. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is I had to calculate out, if you look at the way the two pads are and where the pivot points are, and the pivot points are in different places. One the bolt from the aluminium hub goes through that one, and the other one's at the other end. So this is the one that is here, so you can see, and the pivot point for this one is up here. So they're in different places, and I've worked out the ratio between them so the pads actually come on close together, because if I don't put the pivot points in different places, one would go in and one would go out, and it's fairly straightforward that the handbrake wouldn't work at that point. So right, that's where I am roughly to put that into position, and now that can go down through here. And okay, so just going to knit this lot up. I've got to take it to bits again in a minute, because when I come to do the throttle, obviously the front lever is going to need some modifying, and even once I've got it done, both the levers underneath are going to need blacking, like you've just seen me do. So the one thing when you're doing jobs like this, you just got to keep getting used to taking things to bits, putting them together, taking things to bits, putting them together. The only thing is, you do that, you do learn as you're doing it as well, which is quite a handy thing to do. So what I'll do is just button this up. Once I've got this buttoned up, we're waiting for the hydro dipping to dry off, and then I'm going to put the I'll put the bracket on so you can see what that's like, and I'm going to order my handbrake cable so we can see what to do with that, and that'll be in my next video. One other thing that I'm really looking forward to is I'll stop doing this for a second, is up here is where my gear actuator is going to be fitted. I've been waiting for some time to order it, and I've now ordered it. That should be here within a week or so. So again, I'm going to have to make a bracket here for the pneumatic air system to work. So again, really looking forward to doing that as well. Hi, to finish off, the eagle-eyed amongst you have noticed this block in the back of some of my videos, and wondered, what's that about? Well, like any good bloke, I've got Project 1, Project 2, and Project 3. Project 1 being the road car. Project 2, I've got to do a balcony for the house, which is something totally off-piste. And Project 3 is this motor. Now, the race car that we've got in the workshop at the moment, that's still got the Rover V8 in it, which is perfect for just doing track days or even going to a circuit and driving, but it's not the engine that was fitted in at the time. So its pedigree isn't there. It's not what we race with. I can't afford a Metro 6R4 engine because the price is too silly, but I can afford the engines that we started off with, which is the Scorpio Granada Cosworth engine V6, and they are still about, and it's a production based block. If I want to go to put an engine back in again, I needed worst case a dummy engine, or if not, to a race engine. And because technology has moved on, the problem we had with the engines was the flywheels falling off. And Adam being into engine systems and myself got a bit more knowledge now, we think we might have come up with some ideas of how to cure that problem. So the obvious thing here, so I'm not saying obvious, I'm saying obvious, to do is to put the Ford V6 in. So this came up on an internet website, and very cheaply. It was all in bits. It's called a Bob engine, and so I went along and bought it for not a lot of money. So I've stripped it all down. As you can see, I've given the block a coat of paint to make it look nice. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it for the for an actual race engine or just as a dummy engine at the moment, but I'm still going through the whole sequence of getting it to look nice, and even to the stage of I've been honing the bores out, so just to make sure that the bores are all right. I might just do a quick close-up after I finish this little shot, and you can see in these bores, and I might even just get the drill out and show you roughly how quickly basically go down and glaze bash the bores, as it's commonly termed in the business. So yeah, okay, so that's what this block's about. We're going in and having a look at the bores. As you can see, are quite shiny. To summarise it, there's a few little a mark, should I say, where the piston stops up here, but apart from that, the bores are really quite nice and smooth. We go around to the other side. Something I did forget to mention to you guys is this engine is going to be known, I think, as a hearse engine, not for any morbid reasons, but the fact that this motor, when I came to buy it, the seller said to me, yeah, before I bought it, it was fitted in a hearse, so it's definitely not going to have been ranted. Very low miles, and an ideal motor for putting onto a race car. So yeah, what have I got here? This is my honing tool. Before I do that, I better put some touch of oil down the bore. There we go. Just to show you the process. I won't bore you with doing all of them, but you go up and down like so. Just nice and steady movements all the time. I'll stop it down the bottom so it doesn't pull out. And yeah, so once that's done, you get the bores finished on the other side. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this bit, and on to the next part of the video. Right, here we are back. As you can see, it's come out really nice. I'm very impressed with that hydro dipping. From here, you really wouldn't know whether that was a carbon sheet or a hydro dip sheet. So yeah, that's come out really nice, very nice and shiny with a bit of lacquer on it. And the other thing that's quite cool is actually, you can see, it goes around the edges here. So it does make it look pucker. It just doesn't stop when the sheet comes over the top. It manages to bend itself round, which is really quite pleasant. And I've actually got one on the car. So if we go over, we can have a look through and see what it looks like through the wheel. I think we'll all agree now that actually that does look quite nice in there. Okay, so that's it for this video. Right, well, thanks for watching. The next clip I'm going to carry on again, so there won't be another COVID clip. It will be me carrying on with the handbrake, and maybe even starting the actuator bracket and how I'm going to mount the actuator bracket as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the next video.